Mame fa na se ma PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV de osia dem yopo.
This morning, snowy morning in Alberta. I tried to pack some sunlight from Ghana, but Air Canada didn't deliver, so you just have to bear with the weather till I leave. Thank you very much. I'll just give a brief overview, and I guess that in the interaction section, I'll be able to expatiate more on many of the opportunities that our beautiful country, Ghana, has to offer. Our economy has been facing several challenges in recent years, which is impacting on its growth and stability. I'm sure that the Honorable Finance Minister would have given you further details if he had had the opportunity to go into detail. But we went into COVID and the other international global shocks without the kind of resilience that we needed to go into, and so our economy took quite a beating, and so we've had to undertake a debt restructuring because we had over a period of time borrowed too much, and so our debt to GDP was not sustainable, and so we've currently gone into an IMF program to try to stabilize the economy and balance the macroeconomy. And so at the present moment, we finished a domestic debt restructuring, and we're currently doing an international debt restructuring. And once that happens, the intention is that by 2028, it should bring debt to GDP down to about 50%. And we hope that that would create better prospects for the economy. With the right strategies and investment opportunities, it is possible to get the economy back on track and foster long-term development. I'll provide you with an overview of the current state of the Ghanaian economy, share my suggestions for revitalizing the economy, and the potential for investment opportunities for businesses interested in Ghana. Currently, we're going through economic challenges, high fiscal deficit, debt burden, high inflation, and a heavy reliance on commodities. And this is threatening our economic stability. The impact of COVID-19, the pandemic, exposed the weak state of our economic foundation, arising from poor economic management even before COVID struck. The government's overspending, taking advantage of the pandemic, resulted in worsening the situation. This was further amplified by reduced revenue. As a middle-income country, revenue is expected to be between 18 and 22%, and I think Ghana was doing about 13 or 14%. And so, under the IMF program, the government has been compelled to put on some more taxes in order to increase revenue. We believe that to get the economy back on track, we must look at diversifying the economy and encourage the development of non-traditional sectors. We relied mainly on some traditional sectors like cocoa. Ghana is the second largest producer of cocoa in the world, and Ghana is currently the largest exporter of gold in Africa. We therefore are vulnerable to shocks anytime there are collapses of global commodity prices. Two, we should enhance infrastructure, investing in critical infrastructure such as power generation, transportation, and telecommunications to backstop and support economic growth. We should improve the governance environment, address corruption, bureaucracy, and inefficiency to create an enabling environment for businesses and attract foreign investments. We must cut red tape and bureaucracy in order to advance in the ease of doing business. We need to look at human capital development, prioritize education, like the Honorable Minister was talking about, healthcare and skills training to build a productive workforce that can meet the demands of a rapidly changing economy. The thing about education is that, like Canada, we were colonized by Britain, and so we inherited the British system of grammar school education and not emphasizing much technical and vocational skills. And so what we're trying to do now is to try and rebalance our educational system by incorporating a high dose of skills and vocational education, so that for those who are not able to advance into tertiary education, they also have the route of going into skills training and technical education. To promote agriculture, enhancing agricultural productivity, value addition, and agribusiness to strengthen food security and export. The investment opportunities in Ghana. First, I'll talk about the energy sector. There's space for investment in power. We've seen a lot of investment in power. When we liberalized the power sector, we allowed independent power producers. And so several companies have invested in setting up generating plants to produce electricity both for Ghana, and there's a potential for exporting to our neighboring countries because we're interconnecting our grids with our neighboring countries. And so for the countries that are power starved, it is possible to evacuate power to supply their needs. We also have the potential in renewables, mainly solar. Wind is not very viable. We're not a very windy country because we're close to the equator. And so solar is the main thing. I guess if we could export sunlight, we would export some to Alberta. And so there's potential for a lot of solar power. Ghana also has, it's an oil producing country, and we produce both crude oil and also LNG. Total LNG is about 204 billion standard cubic feet of gas, and the main oil fields are the Jubilee field, which was the first field to be discovered, and then we found the 10th field, which was second to come on stream, and then we have the offshore Cape 3 Points, which is the ENI Sankofa field, which is also producing a lot of gas. The other potential investments, the next important field was a field that was owned by Hess, and it sold out to Accra, and Accra has been taken over by the African Finance Corporation, and that is a field waiting to come on stream. And so I think they are looking at investment options to bring that field also on stream. If they do, it will bring more oil and gas into the system. It's important to look at manufacturing, investment in textiles and garments to take advantage of affordable cost of labor. And there are several companies that have set up already. Africa is crawling with Vietnamese, Chinese, Indian, Middle Eastern investors, and because they are not risk averse. I tell this story about my North American colleagues and friends who come with a long list when they want to invest, and they start to take from number one. Is it a democracy? Yes. Is there freedom of speech? Is there abuse of human rights? You know, what's the judiciary like? By the time you get to number 5, the Chinese and the Indians have set up a factory and are producing, or set up a mine and making money. But Ghana is a democracy. Ghana has respect for human rights. We have a judiciary based on common law, like most Commonwealth countries. And so it makes it easier for investors, you know, in Commonwealth countries like Canada to be able to look at investments in Ghana. Producing in Ghana can give you access to a market of 30 million people. But potentially, with the passage of the African Continental Free Trade Area, that allows duty-free exports into each other's countries in Africa, and 54 African countries have signed up to it. So it means that potentially, if you set up a pharmaceutical company in Ghana or a textiles and garments company, you have the possibility to export your products to a market of almost 1.2 billion people, which is the whole of Africa. And so that is an attractive area. We also have technology and innovation. And the service sector is the fastest growing sector in Ghana, contributing almost 48% of GDP growth. Taking agriculture is to be the biggest contributor to GDP. Services are taking it, and that includes e-commerce has taken off, and we have also the fastest, in Africa you have the fastest growing digital and broadband services. Africa, before COVID, had the fastest growing broadband connections in the whole world. And so that's an uptake that Africa is leapfrogging with in terms of digital services. We also have opportunities in the area of real estate. There's a housing deficit in Ghana, and so that's an area that several companies are taking advantage of and, supplying houses onto the real estate market. We had a growing and buzzing middle class that was the main off-taker of such real estate. Unfortunately, because of the economic crisis and the debt restructuring, the middle class has taken a bit of a hit, but we expect that they should bounce back, in the near term. So real estate is a place that people are involved in. Industrial parks, shopping malls have become very popular, and other recreational facilities. The opportunities in the education and health sector. Ghanaians value quality education, and so there are some entrepreneurs who've set up schools, quality schools, providing quality education, and Ghanaians are prepared to pay, to send their children to good schools. Healthcare, Ghana traditionally has attracted health tourism. That is, our neighbors come, from neighboring countries to seek healthcare, because Ghana has a huge army of professional specialists, medical, well-trained personnel. And so for services like heart surgery, you have people coming from Sierra Leone, Liberia, and other places, Burkina Faso, to do open heart surgery in our cardiothoracic center. Some come for radiotherapy for cancers and so on and so forth. And so there is also opportunity in the health sector to provide health services, not only to Ghana but to the sub-region. Agriculture and agro-processing, and that's where my friend works, and I'm going to talk to him and see if I can attract him into the Ghanaian sector. We have a huge potential. Sunshine, land, water, everything you need to engage in agriculture is available. And we have the potential for a lot of agro-processing because Ghana produces cocoa, so there's opportunity for processing, adding value to the cocoa before it's exported. There's opportunity for expanding coffee production and also adding value to the coffee for export. We're increasing production of soya, and so soya is an important crop both for internal consumption and also for export. There's potential for processing cashew. The Brong-Ahafo regions, the three Brong-Ahafo regions are the biggest producers of cashew, and so now they export the raw cashews, and they are processed mostly in India and exported into the North American market. And so there's a possibility to put in capacity to process the cashews and export them directly to North America. Cotton used to be a big crop in the Savannah region, but recently it's falling in terms of production. But there's a possibility to increase cotton production again for export and for internal consumption. There's also the possibility for what I call import substitution. Ghana imports almost $2 billion worth of food products every year. And some of these are basic commodities that can be produced locally. And so vegetable oils, of course we have people like Wilma and others who have invested in oil processing mills, and so they buy the oil seeds in Ghana and they process them both for the local market and for export. The local market is big enough to absorb a lot of it, but they export some to the neighboring West African countries. And so vegetable oil processing is one area that is important. Of course, because we're not producing enough of the oil seeds, and so they import additional oil seeds from places like Malaysia and others to supplement the local production. Poultry. One would have thought that, growing chickens is the easiest thing to do, but we import a lot of poultry, and so there's opportunity for producing poultry for the local market, and the local market is huge. Rice. We suddenly have turned into a nation of rice eaters. Of course, because of modernization, it's easy to put rice on fire and have a meal in a very short time, and so some of our local dishes are a bit more difficult to prepare, and so a lot of people in the urban centers are eating more rice, and so we're importing something like $900 million worth of rice a year. And so rice production, rice processing is an area of importance. Tomato. We eat tomato in everything, in stews, in soups, everything. Ghanaians will put tomato in. And so there's a huge market for tomato production and processing. And there are a few companies like Gino who have set up some processing facilities, but they can't get enough raw material. And so they have to import tomato from outside to process, both for the Ghanaian market and for export to neighboring countries. So these are areas where there's opportunity for fish production. Ghanaians are probably the biggest fish eaters, one of the biggest fish eaters in the whole world. I'm sure if you count the top 10, Ghanaians will feature in terms of eating fish. Unfortunately, we have a problem of overfishing offshore coast, because
I'm not PENDREAM TV. Now, so far so good. Say open online portal e Ghana. Nipa share, nipa follow, nipa comment here. To my best of knowledge, without any biases, PENDREAM TV.